Now we will begin the third session of this week 4. And in third session, we will discuss about refugees caused by the Korean War and their impact on the culinary changes of 1950s and 60s and so on. Now, any migration, human migration, brings changes of culinary change. If you migrate from one place to another place, then in new place you may not find what you were used to eat, so you have to change your culinary habit. But also, when you bring your particular, the unique culinary culture to new land, and you will apply it with the new ingredients, and often the new food items are invented. This is what happened before and during the Korean War and after the Korean War, when millions of Koreans, about nearly 2 million Koreans who used to live the northern part of 38th parallel, they came to South. And in addition, even within South Korea, people in Seoul, they had to flee the occupation of the North Korean communist soldiers, and they settled briefly, temporarily in cities such as Busan and so on. So this migration, even though it happened by war, it brought amazing and interesting changes in Korean culinary culture. And because of these Koreans are from different provinces here and there on the Korean Peninsula, and the first time they contacted other people from other provinces in a massive scale during the war, and so they naturally had opportunities to taste different flavors of other people from other provinces, and also learn different recipes and culinary practices. So from culinary perspective, this brought huge opportunity, in a sense, of birth of new food and changes of culinary culture. And especially in Busan, where all the refugees were concentrated from northern part and other regions, and during and after the war, many stayed in Busan even after the war, and especially the food which was enjoyed only in the northern part of Korean Peninsula, were introduced to the southerners, and some new food was created. The example is, as so many North Korea people from North Korea fled north and came into south, and they brought their food, like a Pyongyang style mandu, which is slightly bigger size dumpling than ordinary Seoul dumplings, and that was introduced. And also Pyongyang naengmyeon was introduced to southerners, and that's made out of the cold buckwheat noodles, and also Hamgyong style cold noodle, but particularly sundae. The sundae is boiled pork intestines filled with sticky rice, vegetables, and blood. Now, this kind of food, which was not terribly well known in the southern part of the Korean Peninsula, now became a part of daily Korean food. Even kimchi, the Pyongyang style, the northerners' kimchi is very different from kimchi from Jeolla province or Gyeongsang province in terms of northerners' kimchi normally includes much more juice than southern Korean food. Because of the climate difference, it's much colder up there in north, so northerners do not need to use a lot of jeokkal. And so their kimchi is less salt and also salt, so they are more mild and juicy. While typical kimchi in Jeolla province, the kimchi use a lot of jeokkal and is quite salty because of the warmer climate there. So we always also tend to invent new food. and not just in Korea, but elsewhere as well. But anyway, as these North Korean refugees, especially from those Hamgyong province, people who came to Busan, they reinvented their naengmyeon. Why? Because they could not get the buckwheat flour as they used to in Hamgyong province, and instead the US-aided wheat flour were abundant. So they had to make their naengmyeon, their noodle with wheat flour instead of buckwheat flour. So new noodle was invented, and that is milmyeon, which is famous in Busan region today. And this kind of soup noodle tend to be a very convenient food when you are in great hurry. And that's why wars tend to invent this kind of fast food. And similar histories, you can find the Taiwanese Niro Mian, which is beef noodle with soup. Now that was consumed by Kuomintang soldiers in Taiwan because it was easy to make, and it originated from Sichuan. And even the Vietnamese noodle pho itself was the war food in a sense, because it is easy to make, very quick, and you just dump, you have boiling water, you dump some meat and some vegetables, and then rice noodle, and voila, you have the whole meal. So not only the milmyeon in Busan, which was reinvented by Hamgyong refugees in Busan, but also the beef noodle soup in Taiwan, which is called the Niro Mian, and also Vietnamese pho, they were all the products of war. So in this session, we covered how refugees, especially from northern part of Korean Peninsula, who came into southern part of Korea, and how their food faced with foods from other southern provinces, and new food was invented. That's what we covered. In our next session, we will talk about the South Korean government policy in the 1960s and 70s to promote the consumption of wheat flour and non-rice crops such as barley and so on, because the country was suffering from insufficient amount of rice production.